Okay, well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for watching or listening. It's Liam Hartree here today, coming to you with another episode of the Simply Inspired podcast with a very special guest today. Truly honored to bring to you Mr. Darren Gee. Obviously, many people will know, former crime boss of Liverpool, drugs kingpin, one of the most feared gangsters in the UK. Turned it all around now as a youth advocate, anti-knife crime campaigner, doing some absolutely incredible work guiding the youth of today from the wrong path onto the right path. And that's mainly what we're going to be talking about today. Some advice for you, the listeners, or people you know, so you can turn your lives around, make the most of your potential, get on a better path, and basically just be happier people. Obviously, Darren's story of the criminal side of things is extensively documented, so we will be touching on that, but we're also going to be focusing on the mindset that it takes to achieve your goals in life. So, mate, thank you so much, like I said before, for coming on the show, making time for this and everything. Really appreciate that, mate. Nice one. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, mate. Hope you well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be a good one. So, obviously, I'm actually going to start with some of the work that you're doing now because it's just incredible putting yourself out there, being real, being straight up, helping people. What actually inspired you in the beginning to want to guide the youth, help the youth, give some of your knowledge of the things to do in life, the things not to do, to get involved with the charities? Given everything you've come from in your background, what was the initial idea behind that and where it started, please, mate?
The initial choose a life, not a knife message stemmed from suicidal tendencies. So I was contemplating suicide by going at my wrists. And when I was in that, I was isolated. I was on license conditions, which was the worst license conditions you can get after the prison. So MAPA 3 Tier 4 I was on. And during that isolation, I became I got out of prison pro-social. Then the probation and the police service maybe antisocial. They had so many people on me. So I was just in a mad, isolated, given up type of mindset. And I was dealing with a lot of grief when you're in custody. Before I went into custody, there was an incident that left me with grief. And then when I'm in custody, I've had a brother that's committed suicide, which left me with grief. So when I've got out of custody, all that grief I couldn't deal with in custody started seeping through, and I had to address things. So I started becoming very suicidal myself, contemplated ending my life. Before I was about to do it, I've searched self-help, suicide awareness, and because I've been searching things to do with knives, a hashtag popped up, choose a life, not a knife hashtag. And where I've been searching, just for a little moment before, and your phone pings, and the hashtag I've been searching, like a post had come up or something about it, just took me away from them because I'd already like disinfectant and clean my room to the best standard I could be, all my clothes full, prepped myself. So when my family did finally come and see where that's the mindset I was at. But choose a life, not a knife, popped into my life and just completely changed my mindset in that moment. And me, normally stubborn, stuck in my ways. Once I've decided to do something, I'm stuck with that decision. For me to have my mind switched just by these words, I just took it on, started screaming about it across my social media platforms. And with it having knife in the phrase, choose a life, not a knife. So basically, it's not choose your life, not the knife. That's what it was meaning. But because of the knife epidemic started becoming a lot more relevant in the public media and stuff, my choose a life, not a knife motto, if you like, just aligned itself to that place of work now. So it went through trying to encourage the kids to get away from the knife crime, then it's gone into gun crime. Because every child who inspires to carry that knife at 13, by the time he's late teens, he's inspired to carry a firearm. That's the natural progression with these kids. So everyone's causing murder and crying about the knife pandemic. But you've got to realise if them kids who are getting access to knives could get access to guns, it'll be a completely different outlook on the streets right now. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So I went from knife crime, gun crime, into drug dealing because my eyes just opened up. I was involved in all that dirty stuff when I was not on the ball, when I was being led astray easily. And we didn't realise the destruction it's doing to your community, the family breakdown, the crime, it just destroys every community. Heroin, crack cocaine, substances like that just destroy every community. And the people that are peddling it, they don't understand that they're in a lifestyle that they grew into from an early age as a child. Like us that come off the council estates, you only end up in two groups. You've got the good kids that are going to education and getting themselves into work and all that stuff. Then you've got the kids who drop out of education, whose parents have got addictions, and sometimes you'll get the good kids falling over into the bad crowd because they're the only kids on the estate. And it stems from that, and that's where I'm at now. I've been targeting organised crime groups for the past 2 years. I've been speaking about the unsolved murder rate in the city of Liverpool to do with organised crime groups. I'm talking 20 young men shot dead and no one's being brought to justice. It is right, okay, the criminals, okay, they are criminals, and some of you might think, okay, they deserve what they got, but they didn't. You know, at the end of the day, the young men, the sons of mums, the dads to daughters, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of families left without the answers. And being in that unknown space, as you know, anyone who finds themselves in the space of the unknown, it just ruins your life. An example of being an example of being in the unknown is, for example, your missus comes home every day at 6 o'clock. This one day she's not in. You give her a phone call because she's 15 minutes late and her phone's not being answered. You're in the space of the unknown there and your head's going. You start worrying, you start awfulizing, you start ruminating. And that's what it does. It leaves you in the space of the unknown. And when you're in the unknown, your life's just going to end up fucked, isn't it?
absolutely, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful message, and as I said before, the way you put it across in such an eloquent way, but at the same time, 100% real and straight up, that you've been there yourself, you've been and done it, obviously, it really reaches people, it really touches people. They need that. So a couple of things I want to touch on from that. One of them with the suicide thing and everything like that, I'd like to get your advice for basically people who are in that headspace themselves now. They know someone who is, because you said there about coming out of prison and the isolation, but the thing is, mental health itself, it is isolating, for some reason. A lot of times, and I've been through it myself, but a lot of times, people put the walls up around them. You don't want to speak to people, you don't want to put yourself out there, there's withdrawal. So obviously what we're doing today breaks down some of those walls. So any words that you'd like to say for people who are in a dark place, basically, I think would be super powerful to reach those people.
I've been in a dark place since an early age. You know, I first attempted suicide at the age of 16 over a girl, over my first girlfriend, my first love, if you like. And I took like 36 paracetamol and was rushed to hospital and had me stomach pumped and all this stuff. And for years, I'd come across where I'd been in custody majority of my life. I'd, I'd been in a cellmate and woke up to my cellmate who'd hung himself. I'd been two doors away from a kid that hung himself. I've heard in jail. I've heard a lad who's very vulnerable on the ones with heavy mental health implications going on. You know, he's done his throat, his wrists, and screamed for like 2 hours till he bled out. So all this suicide thing seems to be with me now. A year before I got out of custody, my older brother hung himself in my ma's house off the stairs. But the same brother, when I was 17, no, when I was about 10 and 15, actually, he shot himself in the head with a catalyzer gun. So And I've went to his house and found him with blood pissing out of his head, going to fuck. I've tried to rescue him. Now I'm only 15. They have long lasting implications on yourself, and you're always thinking about young people that's committed suicide, and it's always leaving the seed of as if it's a way out. And yeah, I think you get a lot of people thinking, I've had enough, I can't handle this anymore, and end up taking their lives. And I've been at that point, I'd say 4 times in the last since I've been released from custody, and it's a battle. And what people used to say is people are cowards, people are shithouses that take their own lives. And I'd like to correct that now, and I'll tell you right fucking now, you need major bottle. You need to have a heart with the willpower of a warrior to take your own life. Because I've been on the edge of shit, mate, and I just haven't had the balls to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But the amount of times you're on that edge and the amount of times you haven't had the balls to do it, it's like anything. You go a little bit further every time you test it, and eventually it's just over unless something comes into your life to keep you focused and give you purpose. And that's what Choose a Life, Not a Knife came to me at a time of need, at a time of loneliness, despair, isolation, trying to resettle into a society that is chaotic and dead fast, and the world's completely changed. The ray of life for me was Choose a Life, Not a Knife, which stems from Croydon in London.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before we go any further, mate, I just want to say massive respect for putting it out there because it's one of those things where when you've been through something like that, it's a very brave thing to talk about it in public. Actually, I don't care what anybody says, to be able to speak about things like that are quite personal, that takes some massive balls as well. And I say that to people, no matter how many podcasts I do, I got all the respect in the world for people putting that out there. So thank you, first of all, mate, and big respect for that. I am sorry for your loss as well. I mean, there's not a lot that I think people can say with words that makes that any
But
easier,
it's
but
it's with loss as well, mate. There's a lot of people not dealing with loss right now.
yeah,
And the most important thing with loss is the acceptance that they've gone. If you don't let them go, if you cling on to them emotionally, they're not resting in peace. You're pulling the spirit back. You're hating them as well as yourself, basically. The first step in getting over the loss of any loved one or close person in your life is to accept they've gone. It can't be changed. It's pointless sitting there with your head up your bum, thinking that your world's over because your mum's passed through, and or your mum or your husband or your son or would not want to be witnessing you letting your life go down the fucking shitter for one of the most naturalist things to ever occur in everyone's life. It's just that you're scared of it. Everyone's scared of death when it's your birth of life, it's your gift of life, and it's what you do with it. Everyone's going to pass through. You need to accept that you're going to pass through in 20, 30 years. It could happen tomorrow if you get someone involved in crime who's poison and takes your life, can't it?
yeah, exactly. It's like I said before, mate, it's a powerful message. And what you were saying as well about the suicide thing and having the balls and all this, I'm really happy you put that out there because it's something I've been saying for years. If you got the balls to do it, then speaking to somebody about it's easier than doing it, if you get what I mean. It's a lot
You
less,
think you
you know.
think that you think that, mate, but you've got a man's pride.
I know, I know.
You've got, a man's pride is very fucking powerful. And if they've never practiced being open about their feelings, it just never happens. I've been practicing opening my feelings for years. So I can tell you and explain my feelings and my experiences with it. But everyone's just different.
Yeah,
I can be great for 6 to 8 weeks, 4 months, depending on what's going on in my personal life. And then I can just drop. Boom. and I can be in a dark place within 24 hours. And it could take me 24 hours to come out of it, but it can take me a week. And during that week, I'm not on my social media, and people think, oh, I'm just falling off, when in reality, I've got a battle for my fucking life on my hands. And what people don't realize is when you've been in that cycle of thinking, that paradigm and that channel of thinking for years, the way you were battling to, the way you were contemplating taking your life, now you're battling the urges to take your life. So now I sit here and battle urges to end it. Do you understand? And that's what happens with the years of it. So where I was suicidal at 15, where it took me first attempt with the overdose, them feelings and them tendencies never got looked at. They never got therapy. They never got counselled. You know, they just got left with me. And the feelings don't go. You know, you'd always think about that. The more you're thinking and ruminating that through your years, it then becomes an opposition to you. It's not aligned to you now. It's aligned against you. And then you find yourself battling committing suicide instead of wanting to commit suicide. So now you're in a constant fight to keep yourself alive. So when I go into them dark places and I go quiet, people think, oh, he's fell off. Look, he's finally fucking blah, 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 blah. And they add to it. And I get trolled, harassed, and stalked, you know, because I've been delivering my message of organised crime, and it just makes the hole darker and deeper. Do you understand what I mean? So it's a battle. It's a continuous battle for anyone who's got that mindset. Where anyone who's got them suicidal tendencies, you can live with them comfortably. You haven't got to sit there upset with yourself. But when you do get the fight, because we get the fight regular, if you're in my position, you get a regular fight with your life. Basically, you're fighting for your life on a regular occurrence. Where I'm at. But when you do get into that fight, just remember, you're not the only one who's fighting here. It's not just you. You might be the one who's having the fight, but you've got spectators, and the spectators are the ones that love you, even though they're not watching you through your fucking window. They're watching from afar, and they're all concerned, and they really fucking love you. Now, some people fall out with the dad or fall out with the mum, and it breaks the fucking heart that much. They get all depressed, and the mum's not speaking to them no more. That is life. You're given opportunities with everyone, regardless whether it's blood or water. You're given an opportunity. If you fuck up multiple times, you will get fucked off. Don't start hating on your mother because she's jogged you on after 20 mistakes. Don't turn your loneliness into a hateful mind, which just destroys relationships with the people that are going to keep you afloat. Like, who have I got around me now? Like, I've got my partner, my baby, and a supporter. They're the only people who I've got loads of support that come through on Instagram. Are you okay, Darren? But to me, these are people I don't know. If I can't put a name to a face, it's pointless thinking you know me. We might communicate on Instagram for 6 months about all sorts, and we might get very close virtual. But in the real world where I'm still sitting, that's not support. It's just social media. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, mate. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, social media's got the upside and the downside, haven't it? It's got the side where it can obviously bring people together that wouldn't be together. Otherwise, you can share ideas, you can do various things. But at the same time, what you were saying there, it puts a lot more pressure. And I was thinking that as you were speaking, I was thinking, looking on your Instagram, there's like 50 odd thousand people on there, whatever. So if you're going through a hard time and then having the added pressure of people watching, the people who want to see you fall, as well as the people who support you, it adds it adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it? I get what you mean, I get,
It adds fuel to the fire, but it adds weight to the fight. I mean,
yeah, that's it, both
so
sides.
me knowing that these want me to fucking end it gives me that more fight against this not to end it.
Yeah,
But then
makes,
it makes the fight a lot more difficult because I'm carrying all the shit off these cunts on my back instead of going in there like. But sorry about the swearing.
Oh, that's all good, mate. It's all good. Like I said earlier on, mate, you speak straight from the heart and everything like that. And you're 100% real. And what you were saying earlier about showing your sensitive side and stuff, even that is a lesson in itself. I want it's a lesson somebody like yourself who's done all these things, who's a tough individual and everything, and you've got that side, but you can also show your feelings. I think that's very valuable for people to know about as well. Now, obviously, with all of these topics, you do say a lot to the youth in terms of getting involved in the wrong stuff. So not so much the mental health side now, although it is connected, obviously, but in terms of the criminal side of things and going down the wrong path with that. And I've seen a lot of posts and a lot of articles and things of you saying the kids stay in college and don't go down this road and this type of thing. But I'd also like to get a few words, mate, for those people again, if they're going down the wrong path with drug dealing, with carrying knives, with robberies, with any type of thing, how they can get themselves out of that situation. Same thing as before, people who know people who are heading down that thing and they won't listen. Their family's trying to say, look, you don't want to go there, but they're not listening. That type of thing. I mean, I know it's quite a big topic, but it's something you've lived, something you've been through upside down, back to front from every side, so you know it. So what would you say to those people, especially the young ones out there who are struggling with the temptation of that life and they don't know where it leads yet?
There's loads of things I can say, mate. I can sit here for fucking hours and hours and hours and speak shit to the kids to tell them, look, that path and that path are two completely different outcomes. It's like we're given an understanding at certain ages will come at a crossroads like 16, 21, 30, 50. You're at a crossroads at them ages where you're led to believe. But if you take 16 as a crossroads, at the age of 16, if you like, young lads come out the box, they drop the balls, the voice gets deeper, sort of thing. They become a man, basically, 16 onwards. And what most parents used to do is, oh, he's 16, he'll grow out of it. But these days, they don't grow out of it. Years ago, when you're growing up, you'll have your 16 to 20 doing your madness, and then you'll knuckle down and get back on with your life. Now you don't knuckle down; they just stay in that life and fuck themselves up for the rest of it. So at these crossroads, you've either got the best way of being explaining it to people, mate, is this: on every housing estate, you've got a community. Within that community, you'll have two groups. You'll have people attached to the criminal fraternity, and you'll have people that aren't. And you'll have sons and kids coming from them houses of the criminal fraternity sitting at the bottom of the street. Because they're from that environment, they drop out of school, they start consuming cannabis early, they start listening to mad flavour of music, they start dressing differently. Basically, they develop a fresh identity that's not the parents. They pick up an identity of the street, and that's the group they're mixing with. That's who they identify as brothers now. Yes, fam. Yes, brother. So it's gone. So you've got that group there that's doing all the bullshit, not going to school, not educating themselves, staying out till 4s in the mornings, flying around on bikes, stealing cannabis. Da, 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 da. You've got that group, or then you've got the other group, the kid that went to full education and left school at 16, tapped into college at 17, got into a proper job at 19, and he's flying for the rest of his life. He's working on a mortgage. He's got a long-term relationship because he's not in and out of custody. He's not bringing no shit to the door to other gang members or police raiding the house while the kids are there. So that path of life is 10 times more beneficial, short-term and long-term, than what this path of life is. And all I try and do is distinguish to the lads and the girls these days, look at that path and look down it as far as you can see down that path. And when you're looking down that path, I want you to have in mind that kid who was 18, that kid who was 19, that kid who was 20, that kid who was 25, that kid who was 4, all them kids that was on your estate when you were growing up, they all went down that path. 3 are dead, 2 are doing life, one's on smacking heroin, and one's over there. Now, if you can't open your fucking eyes and look down that path where thousands have gone before you and end up in prison or dead, You know, you open your eyes and look in front of you, and you will see down that path the destruction, the trauma, the loss of life, the family breakdown, the family destruction. And you can also open your eyes and look down that path and look at every one of them lads that's gone down there. Some of them have been married, some of them have already paid for a mortgage, some are paying for a mortgage, some have got kids, and some have got a steady income off a decent job. Why? Because they focused on the school and the college. And that's what choose a life, not a knife is, basically. Choose a life and not a knife.
And the other thing with that I have to ask, I mean, with yourself personally now, I mean, when you were getting into this at a young age and from that type of background, obviously everybody knows the story about, your downfall with the revenge killing and getting, going down for that 18 years and all the rest of it. But I mean, when you were getting into it from those early days, did you look down that path? Did you think it would ever end type of thing? Or what were your expectations when you put
Everyone's situations are different now in the drug world, if you like, in the criminal world, because you've got generational crime families, mate. And what you'll have like when I was a kid, when I was 12, you would have had a granddad who's had the swag, and then the granddad's son's got the swag, and then the son my age is tapped into the swag. So that whole family have profited off dealing drugs for 50, 60 years, and they've got businesses all over the gaff. They're bred into it, and they're not violent criminals. They're just spoiled little kids being raised by a drug dealer and said, look, there's a phone. With
Mm,
me, I went through school, expelled from school from an early age. I'm mixing with the crowd, the older lads. So I ended up mixing with lads that were 7 years older than me and started learning their trade. And I started thinking, because I'm not in school getting taught what the education system wants you to think and do, I started doing their trade and becoming good at their trade. And I started believing this is what life is about. I'm going to become a millionaire off this, and I'm going to have a big gangster empire off this. And you just led on a mad path of glory that doesn't get you anything, basically. And I must admit, from a certain age, it was me environments. It was the people, it was the guidance. My parents were piss heads. We always got battered. All this abuse. So it was my environment that started me off, getting expelled from school and being loitering on the streets, eventually falling in with the older crowd, doing older stuff. But there was moments right through from like 14, 15, 16 onwards. There was moments of clarity where he had the opportunity to swerve it. But if I would have swerved it, I would have had to deal with what I'm dealing with now. No friends, no isolation, not being on the streets, not being with the group that I've become accustomed to. So you end up missing them early opportunities of turning your life around, and you regret that, because especially if you're in your younger years of getting into crime and all of a sudden you've got me screaming at you, learn from my mistakes, look at the path I went down, and I'm screaming it at the top of my voice. I never had none of that at that moment, that little moment of clarity. If there would have been a voice there going, stop doing that, I would have took that opportunity there, but there wasn't. So I was just grabbed by the materialistic lifestyle of what I was doing. The cars, the watches, the weed every day. So it was just, I had choices to bail it. And that's the point I make. I had no choice. No, you've got a choice. Everything you do, you decide to do it. No one else decides it for you when you're at a certain age, or unless you've got a certain mental capacity going on. No one makes your choices. You decide to be with him. You decide to go there with that group. You decide to date that woman. You've got to hold yourself accountable for your actions and the consequences that come with it. And that's what the kids don't do. They blame society.
Yeah.
Off track there a bit, didn't we? I could see it in your face.
No, no, no. No, I'm just taking it in, mate, because the thing is, yeah, like I said at the beginning, you put it forward in such an eloquent way. I mean, you're just a great speaker, to be fair. And I mean, it is just the way it is. I mean, you condense what a lot of people make complicated and difficult and all this and distill it down into a very simple thing that can be put across to people. So no, I was just listening with admiration for that, really, because like I say, it's a big topic, but we're condensing it down very, very well. And
It's the best way, lad. What I've learned to do, and I've sort of always done it, but what I've recognized in my life to do, the best way to deal with everything is to simplify it.
yeah,
What people have got the knack of doing these days is complicating a very small problem and making that very small problem into a very exaggerated problem. So what I do, I like to just strip it back to the basics every time. Take it back to reality. What's the source of the issue and address the source, not the salt and the fucking pepper that's being sprayed on top by other people or whatever. And that's why you're seeing a lot of destruction on the streets to do with these groups. There's no authority amongst them. Like this, what they've done with the lower level and the higher level. The police years ago just started taking the top level gangsters out. And although the top level gangsters were cunts and whatever you want to call them, they set an example, and there was a certain moral compass amongst the old school gangsters. And that moral compass naturally was getting laid down. You don't go to girls, you don't attack the mums, you don't harm children, or you don't go near nanas, that sort of stuff. That used to get handed down into the next generation of crime. So for years, you wouldn't get criminals going to mothers' doors, you wouldn't get but because the teachers, if you like, the professors of crime, if you like, got took out the picture, the students never got the full learning fucking project, if you like, and only ended up with bits of the learning fucking schedule. And the bits they got out of it was basically no morals or violence, greed and violence. So what you're dealing with now is 21st century kids who are 13 years old willing to put bullets in the chest of a 32-year-old for £1,000.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it's like in the city of Liverpool. You've got 14-year-old kid. If you go back to 2000s, there was a 13-year-old kid standing on our estate consistently with a 3/8 snub nose chrome, and he filled someone up with it. And he was just turning 14, and this is 2003. So you can imagine what's going on with the kids now, can't you?
yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
They don't understand though, and this is the point. I think I've been quick to write them off, even though I'm one of them. I call them fucking rats, rats, rats. But I was one of them rats, and it's not good to label these kids and isolate them with a label. It's the worst thing you can do is make them more detached from society. And the majority of these kids feel detached from society because they're being raised on communities where there's no neighbourly love anymore. And if this kid's being raised and his mum's awfully ended up with an addiction of heroin or crack, this kid's being neglected. He's always on the streets. He's never cleaned. He's never washed. He's never really fed unless the nana's there, unless the nan of his mum's there. Do you understand what I'm saying? The kid's neglected, and when he's on these estates growing up and the neighbours aren't giving him a little bit of food or aren't throwing him a little £10 or dressing him or caring for him, basically, as he grows up, he's got no care for anyone on that estate. He's doing his own thing, surviving. Fuck yous. Yous could have got me this and you could have helped me with this and you's all fucked me off, so fuck yous. And they don't feel a part of the community. They feel they own the community. They don't feel a part of the community. It's just a messy world, mate. And you know what the source of the problem is?
Go on.
Source of the problem, mate, is drugs.
Mm. Yeah,
I'd say 60% of suicides is down to drugs. When they're on the come down from drugs, they can't handle the fucking depression and end up doing themselves. And that's what done my older brother. He was crazy on cocaine. And the cocaine, the devil dust, years ago, it used to be like a rich man's thing. So you'd only be able to go to certain people. Now every weed dealer sells cocaine alongside the weed. And you'll have the weed dealers who are only young, 15, some of them, but they're encouraging their mates, just have a little go of coke. It's a party drug, you're okay. So you've got these 16-year-old kids off the face. And then they're wondering why they're running around with firearms, acting like crazy men on motorbikes, and that is because the cocaine's got them off the face.
Yeah. Well, like I said to you earlier, mate, that one I've seen even in my own community in Wales and stuff, the cocaine, that's been the biggest change, the cocaine. And like you say, the mental health side of it. But the no limits basically. I mean, people they got nothing to lose and all the rest of it. That's been the biggest thing. So given the fact that, well, there's a couple of things here, mate. Given the fact that it's gone this far now, and this cycle has been broken with what you're saying earlier, where they're not having the education, what do you think can be done to bring some of this back on track? I mean, it's probably never going to be the same. You know, I'm not an idealistic person, but it can certainly be better than what it is as well. What do you think are some steps people can take within the communities themselves? Because the government and some of that stuff, I don't want to get into that, but they're not doing nothing. So in terms of
Look,
the
yeah,
community,
look, the governments have always had the policing institutes as a way of looking after the communities. But we who live on the communities know quite well they don't do fuck all for our communities. They turn up when there's a murder and then fuck back off. For years and years and years, it's all been about community cohesion, love thy neighbour. That's how we've dealt with wrongings on our estates normally. You know, you couldn't have a sex offender or someone who battered the wife on a regular basis living on your estate 15 years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's all. It's all gone. It's always been the community people that have got to come together and understand what the fuck is going on. Every community's got its leaders, and every leader on the communities can look out to their front door, and the first thing they'll identify what's wrecking their community is the drugs and the group that's peddling them. Now, if it wasn't the drugs and a group that was peddling that was wrecking the community, everyone would be vocal. If it was something else wrecking the community, everyone would be standing on a pedestal going rah, 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 rah. But because of the repercussions of doing that towards a group that's involved in drug dealing, organised crime group, OCG, if you like, the repercussions of being vocal against them is your house gets burnt, your wife gets slashed on a step, you know, all the madness kicks in. So there's a lot of community leaders that are very hesitant to preach and be very vocal about what these lads are doing on our estates. They're scared. The fear factor is real. Do you understand what I'm saying? You've only got to see certain news clippings to see if you're classed as something against the fucking trends. You get rushed out your home. And some people, I've witnessed people in houses that's been there since I was 8, and they've been suspected of being a snitch, and they've been moved out the city. And that's a nice little family that weren't snitching. They just got suspected of being, and these rats moved them out the fucking. And I'm watching like old women that's been on our estate for 35 years or something being moved out by the new breed of kids. And the majority of the kids don't even live on the estate. They're coming to the estate to chill with one of their mates.
yeah.
It,
Makes
it, well,
makes a lot of sense. So something else I want to touch on with this, mate, because we're talking about the bigger picture here a lot, which is something I had in mind. Because the thing is, obviously, you've done a lot of interviews with people focus on you very much personally, but I also want to talk about the bigger picture as well, which we're doing nicely. Coming back to you personally for a minute, you said earlier about the self-assessment, you know, holding yourself accountable and all this type of thing, and not blaming basically external things in one form or another. Now, when it comes to your process of doing that personally, and you know, you've had to look back on the way you once were and the influence that these drugs did have on the community, you know, and the influence that some things did have on people's lives, like the killings and obviously what caused your downfall in the end, to be honest. I mean, in a simple way, when you reflect on it now, how do you deal with looking back on that and basically with the regrets? Because there's many different things, aren't there? I mean, there's obviously lost time in prison. There's how do you sort of
There's
deal
no
with the
regrets, you
day-to-day?
see, mate. That's what I mean. When you hear people say no regrets, the reason I say there's no regrets is because I've regretted them. I don't live in regrets. I've regretted that situation and that decision, but I've accepted I made a bad decision and I've got on with it. I've left it. I don't live in the regret.
Mm,
And what people need to understand is you can't leave the past behind. So ignore that fucking shout, because that's bullshit. No one leaves the past behind. You carry it everywhere you fucking go. Right through your life, you're carrying every single thing from a child with you. You don't leave nothing. Any people at harmed you, anything, you carry it all with you. And it's entirely up to you how you carry it. You can carry it heavy as fuck, or you can carry it light as fuck. And that's entirely up to you, mate. Heavy is not accepting shit's gone on. Heavy is not coming round to the fact, hang on, you can't do shit about that. What the fuck are you still there for? Move on. If you don't get out, if you can't understand the power of acceptance in a lot of situations, your life is going to be very heavy and very fucking, mentally challenging for you. The minute you start accepting certain things that you will never change, there's certain things that people ruminate about and it cannot be changed, but they ruin themselves with it. So accepting everything that is put in your path, in your way, accept it as part of a process. Don't sit there trying to battle with the past and think about the decisions you made in the past and because you're living in the fucking past. Start thinking about the future and you'll start living in the future. It's why you don't, you get a lot of people, like if the mum dies on the 11th of December, on the 11th of December, they'll instantly and automatically refer back to the past. And every year, they'll keep referring back to the past, to the past, to the past. So when you're meant to be moving forward in your life, every year, you're knocking yourself back a few years. The best thing to do is if you're going to have an effect on the 11th when your person passed away, do it with a fucking smile on your face. Do it joyfully. Don't sit there all sad and depressed. Think about the good times. Think about the good things that went on.
yeah. I like that, mate. I like that. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot of it takes mental strength to do that. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's great advice to give to people because, yeah, um,
It takes a lot of mental strength.
yeah,
And the only way your mental fortitude gets reinforced is when you go into them deep battles and you come out the other side. And what I've noticed, and I've said this to my partner quite a few times, when I go into this dark hole, when I find the light, positive things automatically kick in. Just naturally out the blue, bang, make my life more enjoyable. And it's not material things, it's just like, you've gone there, mate. Are you still there?
yeah,
You
yeah,
still
yeah.
there?
I'm back
Oh,
with
your
you
camera
now.
froze. Your camera froze.
Yeah, yeah, you did just for a second, but yeah, still with you.
Well, I lost my chain of thought. So
But no, I get you were saying about the mental strength, and you were saying about
every time you're knocked down, you can either stay down and keep your mental strength weak as fuck, or you can battle. And at the end of every battle, the strength is more. It's like with anxiety. The way I deal with my anxiousness is, I don't know why I developed it. It just popped on. But I started developing like social anxiety. So I couldn't be in a packed waiting room in the doctors because I'd start getting scatty and da. So to correct that anxiety, I know when I go into that place, I'm going to get anxious. So it's like when you're learning to ride your bike when you're a kid. You'll get on it, you'll wobble, you'll fall, you'll leave it alone because you've got a cut on your knee, and then you'll go back in. And then before you know it, you're doing wheelies, skids, throwing your bike everywhere, aren't you? So that's what I've done with my anxiety. I'd purposely go into crowded places and stay there for as long as I could until it was the butterflies and the tight stomach got a little bit too much, then I'd leave and it'd relax. And then a week later, we'd go back in, and that 20-minute period turns into 30-minute period, and then back in 40 minutes. And then before you know it, you've battled your anxiety without any medication. It's like arachnophobia, if you like. It's like if you're scared of spiders and someone drops a spider on your shoulder, wow. But if the elder spider and told you to touch you and give you 10 minutes, then you went back and put 2 fingers on. 10 minutes, 3 fingers, 10 minutes, 4. Do you understand? Eventually you'd be holding.
Yeah.
I feel anxiety in some ways, in some particular, because anxiety affects us in all different forms, and I'm not sure of what the forms are. I'm just speaking about my experience. I'm not reading from books or coming from doctors here. There's no doctors involved with me here on it. So I'm speaking about the emotions and the experience I've gone through, and that's what I'm portraying back to, projecting over.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. But first of all, I was thinking with that. Well, first of all, I love the like desensitizing yourself to this type of thing, pushing through the barriers. I mean, it's very good. It's old school. Funny enough, it's something my dad says about and everything. I'm with you on that. But
Like back to the basics, mate.
yeah, simple. Keep it simple, like you said earlier. But I'm also, to be quite honest with you, surprised about you being a person who has anxiety because obviously you were living a life where you had to be watching your back, looking over your shoulder. You've had a price on your head. I mean, you've had all types of things been going on. So, do you think some of the anxiety comes from those experiences, or is it connected in any way?
Me personally, mate, I think anxiety is a societal thing.
Mm,
I think there's a lot of people becoming very anxious due to the society we live in right now.
yeah, yeah.
Just the society that we live in can cause people to become very fucking anxious.
There's something in that, mate, because since I've left the UK and been out here in Cyprus, it's only been about 3 months now, but I've noticed it's hard to explain, but I've noticed like a feeling that was in my shoulders, like a tension, like my shoulders was high like this, and the stomach as well, like you were saying there, the knots in the stomach and all that, easing out. And it's still not gone, but like easing out because it's a lot more chilled out here. It's a lot more slow and everything. And I've noticed that like in my actual body personally, just slowly like dropping and just, and there's definitely something with like how fast-paced society is, being bombarded by things. Obviously, like
There's loads of things, there's loads of things that can lead on to anxiety that initially wasn't anxiety. You could just be walking down the street and there's a crazy crash 6 foot away from you, and you're just left in shock. And from that shock, you end up with an anxious little fucking stream. And if you don't correct it early, it becomes worse as it goes along.
yeah,
So I used to just get a little bit anxious when I was in a room and I knew he had a problem with 4 lads that was in the same room. I'd get a little bit anxious. I was never I'd never dealt with social anxiety before until 2018. That's when I started developing. So I've been out of custody for 2 years. And on the 17th of March 2018, someone tried to shoot me dead on my mum's step. On the back of that, I developed a paranoid sense, which runs alongside anxiety. So when I start getting anxious, I start getting paranoid. It's so with I've been doing it that long now. It's like it goes from one into another, and then out. It's not. I'm not dealing with just anxiety now. I'm dealing with anxiety, paranoia, insecurity, and then I'll calm down. Do you
mm,
understand what I mean? It's weird.
yeah. I was actually thinking I relate to a lot of it on this side of things personally, but as well as that, I mean, yeah, I was curious about that of like how it factored in with some of the experiences you've had in your life, and it makes sense like with the attempt on your life and that. Um,
A lot of people say to me, Liam, that you must have had bottle, you must have had big bottle to do the stuff, and you must have, you must have been game to be doing the things that you were doing. But I've always said to them, look, there's different minds in criminals. For example, not now, but the abilities there, if you like. I could kick your door in, and I've said the phrase in the past. I won't say it now, but I could kick your door in and leave you in a hospitalised way and not bat an eyelid. But I couldn't tea leaf a Mars bar out your local Tesco because I'd shit myself. So, do you understand what I mean by the dynamics of thinking and mentality with different criminals? Like
Yeah,
you'll have criminals that can pull a gun out and shoot someone dead, but that same criminal would never have a fist fight because the bottle you need to go into a fist fight is a lot more demanding than the bottle you need to squeeze the trigger. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, although using a gun in a violent incident is a violent offence, it doesn't mean the individual is a violent individual. Am I making sense with you?
yeah,
So
totally.
you can get a kid that is not violent at all, but he'll blast you with a fucking gun.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
get you'll get. I don't know why we're on this subject, but I'll just round it off and get away from it. You'll get a kid that will sneak in your house and shoot you with a gun, but that same kid could not attack you with a blunt instrument.
yeah,
Different violence, if you understand what I'm saying. That's not a violent individual that's pulling the trigger on the gun. That's a
yeah.
violent man that's willing to pick that arm up and Katie Sculling. And that's the
Okay.
point that people make.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and it's still relevant because it's like what we were saying earlier, though, and in my mind, it feeds back to what we were saying earlier about like the depression and the suicide thing, and the bottle it takes to do that and everything versus speaking to somebody. It's still the same type of thing. I mean, it's not what people think it is. It's not what's inside a person, from the outside and all this type of thing. So it does make a lot of sense, and the contrast there between things is actually weirdly a good life lesson itself. So couple of other things, and I mean, we won't be ages longer, but we're doing well. A couple of other things. Obviously, something else I wanted to ask your advice on for people listening to this now. Prison and that side of things. Obviously, being in there for a while yourself, it's somewhere nobody wants to be. But in there, were there things that you did to pass the time to improve your life? I mean, some people go in there and they're doing degrees and they're doing, or some people are getting into fitness and they're doing weights and they're doing all this stuff, having something to focus on, having
Yeah,
purpose.
definitely. You've got to. And
Yeah,
as I done a live earlier on, and this topic came up, and what I tried to say to lads who are looking at prison time is you've got two routes. You've got education or medication, and you'll be given the option. You'll get the medication option before any other option. So if you want to go through your jail and not correct your ways or get out the other side with an addiction to medication, go the medication route. What I done is the education route. Now you get a lot of kids going into prison without release dates, so they've got no real hope really. They're just left in the system to find their own little way. They can educate themselves to, like you were saying, degree level. It's still not going to make a difference to them in the future. But kids with release dates, you need to use prison as an intervention in your life that's fucked up outside. Yeah, you've been arrested. Yeah, the police have got you. Yeah, you've been sentenced. You're now in prison. But don't take it as it's a punishment. Take it as it's an intervention for yourself and your life. Do you want to keep on coming back to this fuck up, or do you want to correct yourself while you've got this opportunity? Now, it's a long, long road to correct your ways. It's not easy, and a lot of people give up. But let me tell you, I never gave up. And my life is a lot lighter. I'm dealing with stuff in my life a lot easier. All my emotions are handled and controlled like never before. Do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
So it can be done. Don't Just because you're in that life doesn't mean you can't come out of it. If you're 21, 22, 23, and you're in the life now, don't be waiting until you're 35 to jump out. Jump out now, because from 21 up to 40, if you don't jump out, you're going to be in prison. You're going to have breakdowns with your birds. You're going to have loss of finances. You're going to have kids that are very, very unhappy with a big void in their life, which is you, because you're in jail. I could sit here and preach and preach and preach, lad, and I should be giving you direct answers. But every question you're giving me, it's like the questions are there for me to elaborate.
Yeah.
I think I'm elaborating a bit too much, aren't I?
No, not really, because I was thinking about this because I was thinking, obviously, it's something I do a lot of anyways. I do try and pick up on things that open up into other subjects because a lot of people, I mean, some people have the style like you were on with James English and some of those guys, they're very detailed, they focus on this happened and then this happened and this happened. But the thing about that is your story with that is out there, I mean, people know that. And I was thinking, we could sit down and do the same thing. But I was thinking actually, people have heard it before. Whereas I was thinking, okay, let's get something out with Darren that people haven't heard. I mean, they are hearing it because you put this stuff out there, but they haven't heard it like this. And let's get some. Let's go a bit deeper. Let's get some lessons. Let's get some. Your opinions on things you've learned from, and all this, because that's what life's about. Yeah, at the end of the day, And the other thing with interviews, I mean, I've done. I don't know how many I've done, but probably around 300 of these, and I would just get bored stiff if I was literally just sitting down talking to people saying this happened and this happened and this happened. And sometimes you have to do that, but with yourself, there's too much of it out there. And I thought, like, let's get into the mindset a bit more and
There's too much of the what happens is there should be hundreds of positive, inspirational, motivational content out there that I've put out there. What the majority of individuals see is me being assertive, aggressive. And when you see me doing interviews 18 months ago, or in 218 or 19 or whatever, so the way I'm doing them now, you can see a complete different contrast. And what you've got to understand with me is when I come out of that box after serving, 12 years straight in a cell, social media was madness to me. So I've come out and been pushed into this limelight of social media, and just with that comes a lot of popularity, but the popularity is not always good. And the majority of the subjects I've been speaking and very vocal about has offended a lot of criminal groups within the city of Liverpool. So my popularity has been very harmful to my personal life, but because I've neglected myself for the message.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've proper ruined myself focusing on the message too much.
Well, at the end of the day, mate, I mean, I know there's two sides of this because obviously there's your personal side of it and your life, and I did consider that. I thought of that. I thought I wonder how people feel about it, especially people who are still in, that side of life and everything like this. But
There's loads of things, sorry, Liam. There's loads of things with me, mate. You've got to understand, like, me crimes and stuff. The fella that was mistakenly identified in our crime, who ended up getting fatally wounded and passing away. He's got family.
yeah,
He's got a wide network of family, and some of them are still involved in crime from back in the day. And although I've moved on, I've accepted the death of Craig. You need to accept the death of David Regan. We both had a loss here. But where I've moved on from crime and then circles and then networks of people, very sacrificial, sacrificed everyone, including my family. So I've got no family. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you're doing all that, you've got to be ready for the shit that your past is going to throw at you. And that's one thing I realised early days. Don't think you can go on social media and hide a closet full of fucking skeletons, because people find them. And the more popular you become on these social media apps, the more people are rooting, and there must be something about it. They don't, they turn every stone they come across and look under it. So I just went, you know what, the best thing for me to do with me crimes, with this and with that, is just lay it all out on the table. And if people want to criticise, they can. So I done that early on, got everything out there. I'm an open book. I'm honest. I'm changed. I'm a reformed character. I am rehabilitated, but I'm self-rehabilitated. No prison, no behaviour program instigated any of it. I tell a lie. There was one course called a sycamore tree, and I'd done that course in 2009 in HMP Loudon Grange. Do you know what the sycamore tree is? It's
I've
a
heard
biblical, there's a biblical story surrounding the sycamore tree. Well, anyway, this course is called a sycamore tree. It's a Christian charity-based course run in a prison. And I had that as part of my sentence planning thing to do it. And on there, it's the first time I ever heard of the ripple effect. And what they done to is they explained the ripple effect. And the ripple effect was one of the biggest parts of this course to make you think about what the fuck you're doing. And what the had us doing in there, coming at the end of the course, what they bring victims of crime, and it's regardless what the crime was, the victims suffered traumatically bad. And I'd never seen this shit. First time I've had any eye opening to the damage I'm doing. And at the end of the course, what they'll do, they'll give you a pebble and they'll bring a big, big bucket in of water and they'll tell you to throw the pebble in and explain what it's doing. So it basically, when you're throwing a pebble, have you ever thrown a stone in a pond?
Yeah.
It goes and then ripples out. So that's the ripple effect. And basically, when I've thrown my pebble and the pebbles landed and it's went, that's my crime. That pebble hitting that water is the crime. And then it goes and ripples out through the community, through the families, and leaves a long-lasting effect. Now, ripple effects can be used negatively and positively. So if that pebble was a positive pebble, it'd have exactly the same benefits in the ripple effect as if it was a negative pebble. It'd have ripple effects. And it was that moment that made me take myself out of my shoes and put myself in the shoes of the woman that was explaining how she felt being a victim of crime. And that there was a moment of change for me. And I went from there to correcting myself.
Wow. Yeah, empathy, I mean, is a big part of that, isn't it? I mean, it's a big part of it, yeah. Putting yourself in other people's shoes,
It's the best way of looking at things. You know, there's loads of views and people don't really do them. And what happened with me, because I was took outside the box, when you hear people saying step outside the box and have a look in, because I was took outside the box and went into custody. And then when I've come out the box and looked in, I'm just disgusted at what's going on. You know, when my license period's up and I'm allowed back at my mum's address, that's the first thing I do, drop everything, go straight to my ma's. And when I've landed on the estate and I'm looking around and the drug dealer that was selling drugs with me 15 years before is still dealing drugs. He hasn't elevated himself on the back of it. He's still in the same house. He's still peddling the same drugs. The only difference is now he's got younger customers. So when I'm stood on my ma's step and I'm seeing a 21-year-old girl with a 4-year-old walking next to it and a 1-year-old in the pram going towards the school, and then I'm seeing the cocaine dealer coming out and serving it in front of her fucking kids, my head's going, I'm not agreeing with this shit. So I'm telling the local drug dealers, none of that shit's on this estate no more. So instantly they're umming and ahhing. So it was just an escalation of me standing my ground against drug dealers, and it's just got to the point where I've had a few attempts on my life and stuff. So, but I'm still here, still telling the story, still trying to inspire the kids to change their minds and choose the right path of life. Fuck that path. You might see the girls, you might see the money, you might see the watches, but it's all short term. And when you do start looking at your long term objectives, being a gangbanger won't come into it. You know, you're going to wish you started on that path 10 years earlier. A lot of you are going to regret hearing me and not acting on what I've been preaching. You know, you're going to be 20 years down the line regretting that you never listened to me. And there's going to be kids out there that's going to really respect that they listen to me. And I get it on a regular basis now, mate. And I have done for over 5 years. I get constant reminders of the purposeful thing I'm doing by parents, by the lads themselves, sending me messages like things like, I will have never have changed my ways if I never have watched that video with you, or if you wouldn't have shouted this about this, I wouldn't have even thought about it. And I've changed a lot of people's lives for the good. And that's what I'm about now. I'm on that road of redemption. I paid my part in destroying a community, and all I've tried to do since my release is try and bring some sort of stability back to the city of Liverpool. With all these organised crime groups and that, mate, it's very, very fucking difficult, but no one else is doing it. Whatever city you go in, you're not going to get a Darren Gee. You're only ever going to get one Darren Gee, and I'm from Liverpool. And I'm the only person in Liverpool that's willing to get up and scream about the damage organised crime group and its members are doing to our cities. If you understand the amount of incidents that you're witnessing on the streets to do with organised crime groups settling the differences, you've only got to look at the young girl Olivia. You've only got to look at Ashley. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are young girls in the houses not doing no one anything wrong and having their lives taken because you've got organised crime groups settling the differences on the streets with no authority to deal with them. As I said earlier on, the police turn up when there's a murder. They don't prevent the murder happening. They try and solve the murder. And that's the way they've always worked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to say to you there, mate. First of all, because what you're doing with the work that you're doing, I think it's one of the highest things that people can aspire to do in life, making a difference, contributing to other people's lives. Going back to what you were saying earlier, taking yourself out of your own shoes and all this, and looking at the effect things have on other people. It's one of the highest things. And going back to what you said a bit earlier again about the different types of criminals, somebody can shoot somebody, but they're not violent, this, that, and the other. This was what I had in mind with yourself, because I can personally see past Darren, the criminal or whatever, and all of this stuff that's out there on the front. And I'm trying to get into Darren, the human, Darren, the man, and everything like that, which I think we've done actually very nicely today. But at the same time, getting the message out there. And that's why I've sort of framed everything of like, okay, what would you say to this person? What would you say to that person? Because in my mind, it's for the people listening to this to, as you say, they have the opportunity to listen to it. Going back to what you said right at the beginning, they have those you basically said there's opportunities, you had when you were younger to get out of it and to make differences.
This is
By
what I'm saying. And I know for a fact, if I would have had someone who's got the experience and the name and the foundations is scream. Say I was growing up and I had Tommy Gilday or Curtis Warren screaming at me, stop fucking doing it, you're ruining your... I would have listened and went, okay. And I would have had that moment and went, fucking swerve it then. If these are telling me to swerve it, they must be fucking right. They've been there, they've done it. Now I'm giving people, I'm explaining to the youth, learn off my mistakes. It's okay to learn off my mistakes. You're going to learn, you're going to make your own mistakes, but try not to make mine. And here's the mistakes that I've made. So don't do this and don't do that, and you won't make them mistakes. So when I'm screaming, go down that path with the sensible lads off your estate, I'm telling you that because I've been down this path with the bad lads off the estate, and it's absolutely destroyed my life. My life could have been a lot. It haven't destroyed it because I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still smiling. I'm still full of wisdom. I'm strong as fuck. Do you understand? But my life, if I would have focused 25 years of my life on that path with them people, I will have been a CEO of a biggest fucking empire or something. But because I put 25 years of my attention and my focus on that life with that people, I ended up with fuck all for it. Now, if you're 16 and you're going to focus on that path there for 10 years, I'll guarantee you by the time you're 26, you're nice. you're comfortable, you've got a decent bed, you've got a kid. Definitely. No two ways about it. You won't put your 10-year mindset on that path and you'll smash it. You'll have everything you desire. You go on there, you might get things dead fast, but they don't last. And there's a shout, what comes fast doesn't last. What comes slow does grow. Do you understand? And
Yeah.
if you put your hard work in for 10 years and you're going into work every day and you're getting your monthly wage slip every day, that hard work will pay off. You working them hours for that money will make you not waste that money. You will cherish it and treat it right, and you'll live right because of it. When you're in the fast life, you don't respect your money. You're spending it before it's getting saved. You're thinking you're rich. You just end up fucked. Basically, honest to God, you've got two paths in life. You can either choose a life or you can choose a knife. You go down that path, you're finished for a long period of time, right across the board. You go down that path, it might be shit when these are on the sorrows for the first few years. It might be shit because you're in work and they're still on the corner getting blitzed and arrested. But 5 years through that 10-year plan, they're in and out of prison with no bed. You've got a boss bed, kids, and paying a mortgage. And that's the rewards of living a crime-free life right there.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing, mate. I mean, like I said earlier, it's a powerful message. It's changing people's lives. I mean, even through this, even if it reaches, just a few extra people and they think twice, they make that decision differently. We've done our work, and that was my aim for this. Well, actually, my aim for this was mainly that, but also to show you in like the real side of you, if that makes sense, like the more
Yeah,
human.
that's what I'm saying. Everyone's, if they come across me on social media, normally they come across someone that's hating on me's content.
Yeah,
They're not seeing the content that I've done for years, proper community-based content. Because that my channels get shut down by the people that hate on me, and all that content gets took out of circulation. So when people are looking at me out there on the social media, they're just coming across, me in a bad light. When in reality, you've got to understand my process. You've got to understand where I've come from, how I've changed it, and what I've left behind. And it's the people that you leave behind that can't let you go.
yeah,
Most of my problems now stem from the past. They haven't left the past. They're still doing the drug dealing, still doing all the mad shit. I've left them well behind. But I'm in that area of the unknown now. I'm not accepted in the criminal fraternity no more. I'm not accepted in that criminal fraternity no more. And I'm also not accepted in the general population. So I'm not trusted by these, and I'm not trusted by these. It's fucked. So I'm just in this little mad thing that I'm going through, and I'm hoping at the end of it,
yeah.
there's a nice big bright light.
Well, I, it's absolutely amazing, mate. I mean, you're such an open book with this. So we've gone over the time I said. Now I'm going to ask you one other question, and then we'll wrap this up fairly soon. Just because I'm dead curious about this one, and it's as simple as that. But when you said earlier on about the ripple effect and this type of thing, and it being a Christian group, and you said about redemption, you said about a couple of things. Do you believe in anything like that? Like, do you believe in God, or do you believe like, in a
To be
spirit?
honest with you, it was the spirit of Christ that got me through my prison.
Mm,
You know, it was religion that gave me the purpose to get through my prison sentence. And without the spirit of Christ guiding me, I wouldn't have done it.
mm,
And I used to believe in the church, and I used to do all mad stuff with the church. And then when I've got out, the content I was doing, I'd go to every big cathedral up and down the country, and and it started to come to my mind that the church doesn't represent Christ, and that's what I felt out. So I've got no relationship with the church. I've got a relationship personally with the Spirit of Christ, and I connect to the gods, to the Spirit of Christ. I don't have to go into no church and do any nonsense like that. I've done all that for years, not realising I'm gone. For an adult to be going to church on a Saturday, singing nursery rhymes from 200 years ago, it's not good.
mm. Well, you
Are
know
you
what?
religious? Are you a religious person? No.
Yeah, yeah, I believe. But the
What do
same.
you believe in then?
What do I believe in? Pretty much the same as you, mate. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe that I have friends from every type of religion. I believe that in a lot of ways they're all saying the same thing, and I know some people don't want to hear that, but they're teaching the same lessons about life. One of the things I say is some churches give Christ a bad name, don't they? Because they take things and they twist them around for their own way of doing things and what have you, and that's the man-made stuff. But
Exactly.
when you actually cut through it and you cut through all the bullshit with that and there's a
Simplify it. You
yeah,
take the middlemen out the picture and have a direct line to the Spirit of Christ. Focus on Him, and He'll guide you right.
exactly, yeah, exactly. And it's another reason for me doing this type of thing is there is like a spiritual reason behind it for me is obviously well as I've already said, I started doing these podcasts. I believe it was sort of meant to be. It wasn't nothing I planned on doing because with my background doing media and doing photography and filming and all this type of thing, I started doing these during the pandemic. I thought it would be temporary. And I kept getting messages of people saying it's inspired them not to give up and it's inspired them to try and be a better person. It's inspired. And obviously, it's not me. I mean, I got a knack for asking different questions, sometimes strange questions, but questions people haven't heard before. And that's it. The rest of it is up to whoever comes on here. But I realized with that I felt as sort of weird as it may sound to some people, guided to to do this, to speak out about things, to use my voice. So I've always been a good talker, and but then using it for the best reasons. And this is why I do the interviews in this way, and I don't just focus on, as I said earlier, this happened and that happened and all the rest of it. And I try and get into like, okay, what messages does this person have to share and all the rest of it. And that's obviously the thing with yourself is I just thought, you know what, this guy, I can see so much more like behind the outer layer of like the reputation that you got and all the rest of
The
it.
media,
Yeah,
it's the
and
media reputation that they give you, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. And it's sort of you're sort of it's sort of like the myths of like when people become sort of legendary, but then the stories grow and get bigger and all this. And obviously I was thinking, no, 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 there's a different person behind this. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, man, I really want to get the message out there. But this has honestly exceeded my expectations for what it would be as well. Because I knew it would be good, but I thought like, it'll be good, but we'll talk about a few things and we'll wrap it up. But this has gone so much deeper into it that it's exceeded the expectations I had for it. And like I said to you earlier, mate, I mean, with this, I've got the influence to use my voice for something good, and so have you. So, put the two together. And obviously, like I say, even if it touches just a few extra people or something, we've done our job and, we've taken an hour and a bit out of our afternoon to do that. It's worth doing for many reasons, practical reasons, but as you were saying just then, reasons that are a bit bigger than us, shall we
Yeah,
say.
exactly. There's a lot of shit that you only learn as you're getting older, and if you learned it when you were a kid, you probably have an outstanding lifestyle and life. But it's different for me. I'm the one that's. It's like people. Um, I'm putting myself out there to be judged.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of fucking judgment people out there, you understand what I mean? And it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Have you
does.
had hate? Have you had a bit of hate coming alongside? Bit of envious people seeing that you're progressing in your area of concern and they're not.
Yeah, that side of it. Yeah, I mean jealousy and envy and all this side of things. I mean I mean it is hate, but part of the reason it doesn't bother me in that sense, and part of the reason I sort of shrug it back off is the motivation that it's coming from of doing things that people can't do, or they feel they can't do. They could do it if they believed in themselves and
But
whatnot. But
it's different. It's different for your harassment and
mm,
the harassment I'll get.
yeah, it is
Do
different.
you
Yeah,
understand what I mean?
yeah, it's different. It
It's
is
like
different.
so. Anyway, let's swerve the store, isn't that?
No, no, but it is different. It is a different type of thing. But I just want you to keep in mind though that even though you get that, the way I look at it, yeah, the haters they always come in first. They always come in quicker than the people who are saying something positive. You post something up, if there's somebody there who's going to hate on it or something, they'll be the first person who pops up. And then the people saying, "Oh, it's fantastic" or something, they can pop up like a day later or 2 days later.
I'm
I don't,
ruining it.
yeah, and I,
And
and,
that's
and
it's like the wait. So when I've been relevant for years now. there's not a year goes by where I'm not relevant for some purpose, and the main purpose has always been choose a life, not a knife.
Mm.
But when something's natural, it never loses its strength. It's like if me and you sit in a meeting room now and develop an initiative and develop a logo and a motto for that initiative, it'll fall on its back in 2 years' time. Choose a life, not a knife. It's had no network of people behind it, supporting it. It's got no real people out helping to advertise it and give it the push it needs. It's just been me, very vocal. And for 8 years, 9 years, it hasn't lost its strength. And that's because it came from a natural situation. We didn't sit in a business room with businessmen and try and orchestrate an initiative that could pull the wool over the eyes. So it happened naturally. And the only way it can stop is if I shut up or get killed. And then the risk of that, if I get killed tomorrow, the message I've been promoting will go to the highest heights it will ever go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I hope that doesn't happen, but at the same
No,
time,
but that'll be the outcome. If I was to get murdered by one of these organised crime groups, which is a possibility, do you understand? If it was to, the message would go,
yeah,
people would stand up and listen and take account of choose a life, not a knife then.
they would. But I don't know, mate. I mean, they would happen, but I get the feeling that you've got a lot more good work to be doing, and all I can
Definitely
say to
guided,
you,
mate. I'm
you
guided.
know, yeah.
I'm not scared of death. I
No,
embrace
I
it
know,
as
I
peaceful.
know. It's always going to happen to somebody. It's always going to happen to everybody. I mean, to say at some time. And I think what you got to look at is obviously, yeah. I mean, if you do get killed, I suppose the one side of it is quicker than cancer, or it's quicker than suffering, isn't it? So I mean, that's the upside of it.
You
But
think that? You think that? Most people that get shot dead have suffered most of their life.
mm, that's true. But I hope that you keep getting the message out there for a
Well,
long time yet.
I'm positive, Lara. I'm just a different type of character than what people are used to. And that's it. You've got to understand the environment I'm raised in. I'm not raised in a family home.
Mm,
I'm raised in a prison environment from the age of 13. So it's like the care system, the YP system, the adult system, from the age of 15 up to the age of 24. I'd had 2 birthdays and 2 Christmases free.
yeah.
The rest has been in custody.
Oh,
So
that's
I've been raised where when I'm speaking, it might sound like I'm speaking loud, but I'm not. It's because if I'm in a room, I sound loud, but it's because of being raised in environments where you're trying to have a conversation with the 60 people in the same room, all talking about different things. And that's what prison's like. There's
yeah.
conversations everywhere, and you're only getting listened to if you're loud. It's
No, the thing is, actually, mate,
loud and proud, lad, loud and proud.
I'm gonna spin it on its head, though, mate. Because when I'll wrap this up in a minute. But the last thing, when I am talking to you, actually, I don't get the aggressive vibe. I mean, you're quite chill because what you got to look at is you strike me as one of those people where obviously you've got nothing left to sort of prove to anybody in that sense. So obviously, when people have let that go, with the insecurities and the feelings of like, I have to be seen as this and I have to do that. I mean, one of the things I do a lot with, even with these interviews and with photos, I work around a lot of fighters, boxing, MMA, bare knuckle boxing, all that side of things. And you can tell with those guys that there's some guys there who are really confident inside. They got nothing to prove to anybody, whatever. And then you've got some guys who are sort of trying to puff themselves up. You know how it goes on. It's the same on the streets. And they're trying to be bigger than they are and all this type of thing. And you can tell when people go head to head at the weigh-ins or something who's going to win that fight, but not based on the aura they project and everything. Nothing to do with physique, nothing to do with abs and all this. You know how it goes. And so when I'm talking to you, I don't get the aggressive vibe. I get like enthusiastic, which I love. I think that's cool. I think that's like your passion for what you do. Aggressive, not really. I mean, because you're one of those people where you don't have that to prove, so you don't have to put yourself forward. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. So therefore, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah, no,
obviously, and guys who can really deal with shit when they need to. That's what you always see. I mean, the old saying, the loudest one in the room, the weakest one in the room, and all that type of thing. It is true. And obviously, when I was sitting talking to you, nah, I don't get that. I mean, I thought you're actually very chill, and we could talk for for hours more. I mean, I won't because of the listener's point of view, and I want it to be, I mean, I would with you personally. I mean, with this, I want it to be a good length now so people can absorb it in
Yeah, you
a,
need to just a good hour, anything over an hour, mate, and where they've got to play pause on the and all that. They lose the interest and the potency of the content, if you like.
exactly,
You need to
exactly.
keep them. You need to keep them gripped for your 45 minutes, 60 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's what I was planning. I know we've gone over that, but it's still good to for people to be able to take it in. Whereas when I see like the 2 hour ones, 3 hour ones, I look at them and I think, ah, I'd love to watch that, but when am I going to have time to watch that? And it's the same for everybody, you know. So, or even listening to it, even if you're listening to it driving or something, you know, what are you going to be doing when you have time for that? So with this today, we've packed a lot in, mate, and personally, I'd love to talk with you more. So hopefully we can keep in touch after this.
Just do whatever, but according to this, mate, it's been a pleasure, Liam. First time I spoke to you, first time I was seeing you. It's been a pleasure, mate. I hope your new year goes as well as it can do, and I hope everything goes the way it should. But just accept what's coming. Prepare the mind for what's coming. You can handle shit better when you prepare it.
Very true. Yeah, victory loves preparation. Absolutely. But mate, it's been a pleasure for me as well, honestly. Like I say, in terms of the content of the interview, hand on heart now, it has exceeded my expectations. But as well as that, mate, talking to you, just me saying this now, nothing to do with the podcast itself, been an absolute pleasure, mate. I mean, it's the time's gone by in a flash, and I really enjoyed it.
Well,
So
that's a smooth thing, you know. It's through good hour gone. Need to do more.
thank you, mate. And happy New Year to you as well.
And you have, you know, it is what it is. Your future holds what you want it to hold, mate. Just believe in it. And I just like to finish on one thing. You've got a lot of people focused on this law of attraction thing, and you hear a lot of people saying believe, receive, achieve, and all this shit. Let me tell you right now, you're doing it wrong.
Mm.
Once you achieve, then you'll believe. And that's the way it works. You won't believe, then achieve. You need to achieve to get that belief in yourself that you can go on and achieve more. Once you reach that first achievement, you're flying. You start believing you can achieve, and then you start receiving. So it's achieve, believe, receive. Peace out, mate.
I
L5
love it. I
outside of
love
me.
it. What a way to close out, mate. Oh, awesome. Absolutely awesome. And
Choose
personally,
life, not a knife, mate. Always.
always, always. And yeah, personally, I've taken away a lot from this as well, mine. So I know it'll impact a lot of people because it's impacted me as well, just so you know that. And I don't say that very often, but I've listened to this and I thought, wow, there's some things in there. So I'm going to rethink a few things as well. But I'll send this to you when it's out as well, mate, and you can have a look. And I mean, if you can reshare it or anything, obviously I
You send me the link. Send me
yeah,
the link, and I'll dot it right across all me because I like to inform my people. I've just done another podcast there, so
yeah.
but when you're ready to go, send me the link, and I'll broadcast it across my platforms.
Thank you, mate. That means a lot to me, that does, because it's just the more we can get the message out there. And I'm just going to take a quick photo of us talking as well, just so I can post it if that's all right with you, mate, and
Yeah,
just
do what
say,
you want to do, man.
yeah, all right, then there we go. Wicked, yeah, just so I can post it and say it's coming soon. Yeah, I'll be in touch as soon as I can, and I'm absolutely buzzing to get this out
Don't worry
there.
about it. I hope your life becomes fruitful, mate. You have a boss evening.
Yeah, you too, mate.
Peace
Best
out,
wishes
mate.
to you
Bye
and
bye.
your family. Peace out. Take care. Smart man. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.